Avoidant attachment exposed. 7 signs their walls are already cracking. You think they don't care. You think those walls are unbreakable. But what if I told you that right now, at this very moment, the avoidant in your life is already cracking, and you're missing every single sign? Most people give up right before the breakthrough, or worse, they push so hard they cause a person to retreat even further. But by the end of this video, you'll see exactly what's happening beneath that cold exterior, and you'll know precisely what to do about it. Research from Stanford University revealed something shocking. Avoidants experience more internal stress during emotional intimacy than they show externally. Their heart races, their cortisol spikes, their nervous system screams, but their face stays calm. So when you see certain behavioral shifts, you're not imagining things. Something real is breaking down inside them, and it's far more intense than you realize. Here's what nobody tells you about avoidant attachment. These people aren't emotionally unavailable because they don't feel. They're unavailable because they feel too much and learned early in life that showing it leads to pain. Maybe their parents were inconsistent, dismissive, or emotionally distant. Maybe they were punished for needing comfort. So they built a fortress with one core rule: never depend on anyone and you'll never be disappointed. But maintaining that fortress takes enormous energy. Every day, they're suppressing natural human needs for connection, intimacy, and belonging. They're overriding biological drives that tell them to bond, to trust, to open up. And here's the critical part most people miss. That effort is exhausting. When their walls start to crack, it doesn't mean you broke them down. It means they're getting tired of holding them up. Something about you is making them question whether the loneliness of safety is worth it anymore. The first crack appears in their texting patterns, and it's not what you think. You're used to waiting days for responses, right? That's their control mechanism. Distance equals safety. But suddenly, things get weird. They reply instantly to something random, then disappear for 2 days, then send 3 messages in a row at midnight about nothing important. This chaos isn't games. It's internal warfare. Part of them wants to engage before the logical brain kicks in and says, "You're getting too close. Pull back now." The instant replies are unguarded moments. The long silences are shame for showing too much interest. They're literally confusing themselves, and that confusion is the crack widening. The second crack is harder to spot because it's wrapped in casual conversation. Avoidants are masters at keeping things surface level. But when their guard drops, they'll mention something personal, then immediately downplay it. "My parents were kind of cold, but whatever, everyone's got issues." Or they'll share fear disguised as a joke. "I'm terrified of being trapped in relationships. Just kidding, but kind of not." These aren't accidents. They're calculated risks. They're testing you. Will you use this against me? Will you ask too many questions? Will you make this a bigger deal than I can handle? When you respond with gentle acceptance instead of intense probing, you pass the test, and they file you under possibly safe. The third sign is physical and completely subconscious. Avoidants maintain space like it's their job. They position themselves across from you, not beside you. Eye contact feels intrusive, so they avoid it. But watch what happens when their walls crack. Their body betrays their programming. They sit closer without realizing it. They lean in when you talk. They find excuses to be near you even when logic says they should leave. That eye contact lingers half a second longer. These aren't romantic gestures they've planned. These are primal signals their nervous system is sending. This person feels safe. Get closer. Their brain hasn't caught up yet, but their body knows something is shifting. The fourth crack appears in how they handle conflict, and it's subtle but massive. Normally, emotional conversations are met with walls. They deflect with humor, get irritated, or tell you you're overreacting. But when they're cracking, something changes. The defensiveness is still there, but softer. They might sigh and say, "I know we should talk about this," even though every instinct screams run. They might acknowledge your feelings without dismissing them. This is monumental because defensiveness is their primary defense mechanism. But now there's a new variable in the equation. They're starting to care about hurting you. For the first time, keeping you out feels worse than letting you in. That internal conflict softens the edges of their walls. The fifth sign is questions. Avoidants compartmentalize relationships to minimize emotional investment. They don't ask about your life because questions create connection. But when their walls crack, curiosity breaks through. They want to know about your day, and they actually listen. They remember that thing you mentioned last week and follow up. They ask about your family, your dreams, your fears. Sometimes they'll even ask hypothetical future questions, which is huge for someone who lives exclusively in the present. These aren't casual questions. They're mapping you, learning you, investing in you. And they know that every detail they learn will hurt more if you leave. But they're asking anyway. That's vulnerability disguised as conversation. The sixth crack is the hardest for them, admitting they need something. Avoidants build entire identities around independence. I don't need anyone isn't just a belief, it's their armor. But when that armor cracks, something shifts. They might ask for your help with something small. They might admit they're struggling instead of pretending everything's fine. They might even say, "I'm glad you're here," then immediately look uncomfortable. Needing someone feels like weakness to them. But there comes a point where the performance of total independence feels lonelier than the risk of depending on you. When they lower that mask even briefly, they're showing you who they actually are underneath the armor. The seventh and most powerful sign is how they talk about time. Avoidants live exclusively in the now because the future implies commitment, and commitment feels like a trap. But when their walls crack, future tense language slips out. We should try that play sometime. When we do this again next month. Next year we could. Stop. Rewind. Did they just include you in their future? That's not a slip. That's hope. And hope is terrifying for someone whose entire worldview is built on expecting disappointment. When avoidants start speaking in future tense with you, they're doing something radical. They're letting themselves imagine that maybe, just maybe, you won't leave. Here's what makes all of this so powerful. None of these cracks appear because you forced them. You didn't manipulate, chase, or convince them into feeling something. These cracks appear because they're losing a battle they've been fighting since childhood. The battle against their own need for connection. What you're seeing isn't weakness. It's extraordinary courage. Because for someone who spent their entire life believing that closeness equals pain, choosing to let you in is the bravest thing they'll ever do. So if you're dealing with an avoidant who's showing these signs, here's what you need to understand. These cracks aren't an invitation to push harder. They're not a signal to escalate intensity or demand more. They're a whisper that says, "I'm trying, but I'm terrified." The worst thing you can do is rush them. The best thing you can do is stay consistent, stay patient, and stay safe. Be the person who proves that vulnerability doesn't lead to abandonment. Be the evidence that contradicts everything they learned to believe about love. True wisdom isn't about breaking down someone's walls. It's about being worth the risk of lowering them. If this resonated with you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to understand this, and subscribe for more deep insights into psychology, relationships, and the human mind. Until next time, stay wise,